Hello, and welcome to the Purdue Edit, my very first episode. I'm going to go through projects that I've made here for Purdue, and I will basically talk through why I make the editing choices that I make. Because I see tons of tutorials about how to do technical things and what buttons to push here and there, but I see very few about why did you make this cut, or what were you thinking when you made this cut or this change, type of thing, because that's really what the editing process is. So my first episode is one of my favorites that I made last spring of 2021 at Purdue, and it is about a student named Berkley. So to set that up, what I was given is I was simply given the information that we have a student who she is an immunocompromised student. So this is everything was happening during COVID. And we want to encourage other students to get the vaccine and to get tested, different things like that. And so we're going to talk to her about how she feels about it, type thing. And that's basically all the information I was given. Also, important to note, this was specifically for Instagram, because that's where our students watch most of the Purdue stuff. So that has to be 59 seconds or less. So going into that, I know we got to tell the story in essentially less than 1 minute. Just to set up, I decided that I wanted to do a straight on interview. I wanted her to be looking at the camera just for that feeling that she's talking to the students, type of thing. And there's a couple of things I knew I wanted. That was one of them. The other one is I wanted her to open up by introducing herself and stating the problem. Normally, I do not like it when videos open up with the person stating their name, what their job is, or their title. That's just all that is information that we can find out through a lower third, or that we can find out later. If that's the first thing I see when I pop up about somebody, I don't care. I don't know you, so just telling me your name and what you do, I mean, yeah, it's information, but that doesn't make me like you or dislike you or anything. It's just very neutral. The difference with this, the reason I actually broke my rule and did this, because I knew I was going to have her add on that she's immunocompromised. So if she just opened up and just said, "Hi, I'm immunocompromised," that could give a little bit of confusion. So it's like, okay, so introduce yourself, that you're a student, but then state that you're immunocompromised. And then suddenly that actually draws interest, because now we kind of automatically know what the problem is. And that's the big thing is with less than a minute, I need to set up what is the problem, what's the issue that we have right away. And so we set up the issue that she is immunocompromised. So I knew I wanted to have her do that right away. And so that's what I did. And then I basically interviewed her, talked to her about all the different things. And so this is my first cut.
My name is Berkley. I'm a junior studying neurobiology and physiology, and I'm immunocompromised. I can't fight off illness anywhere near as well as a healthy person. So even something as little as a cold or a stomach bug can make me really, really sick. So something like COVID is really scary. I get really nervous being in my big classes because if one person takes their mask off, I worry that maybe they're asymptomatic. I double mask when I'm anywhere near people because it makes me feel safer. I know that it's a challenge to follow the pledge, but it's genuinely the thing that's keeping me safe. Just knowing that everyone on campus has been willing to make these changes, it makes me really thankful that I chose to come to Purdue.
All right, so that's my first cut. And I will say that after I made my first cut, I liked it. I'm like, all right, this is actually, I'm really happy with it. Again, a couple specific things I wanted. She has her name at the beginning. And then I like this. I wanted to have this pause of watching her just to kind of let that sink in of, oh, this is who she is, and she's immunocompromised. The next section is about being immunocompromised because most people have heard that term, but I think myself included, is like, what exactly does that mean? So that's why we have this section about her talking about the pills.
So even something as little as a cold or a stomach bug can make me really, really sick.
So yeah, a cold or a stomach bug can make her sick. Actually, yeah, she doesn't talk about the pills. That's just a visual that adds to the story. I realize that is, she's not talking about the pills, but you see just from these visuals what she has to go through each day. It's like, oh, she has to take a bunch of pills. So I like that. That added more to the story without her actually having to say it. She's saying one thing and that's saying the other one. Then after that, this next little section is I want to know how she feels. Okay, so we know what being immunocompromised means. So how does she feel about it? That's a big thing. And so she talks about...
I get really nervous being in my big classes because if one person takes their mask off, I worry that maybe they're asymptomatic.
So she just talks about being nervous, worried, type of thing, which is all good stuff. Now, we did not have time to, we only kind of had her for about an hour, so I did not have time to get her in class. So we just got her at her apartment, going out to class. So not the strongest, not the best, but it worked with what we had, the time we had. And then the next part is, now that she talks about what she's nervous, is I wanted to talk about, well, how can we then now apply this to everybody else? So what would she like other people to do? What is she hoping the rest of the students would do?
I know that it's a challenge to follow the pledge, but it's genuinely the thing that's keeping me safe.
So essentially, and this is why I have this shot with Protect Purdue, because that's kind of the idea, is she's introducing this whole Protect Purdue thing. And the pledge, she talks about it's a challenge to follow the pledge, which at this point we had really hit the pledge hard, so we don't have to go into detail about what the pledge is. If you just said the Protect Purdue pledge, most students will know exactly what you're talking about. And I really like the idea that she talks about the challenge. So I just brought that up. It's like, hey, this is a challenge, because I think all the students felt that way, so we're acknowledging that. But then it's super important, which she brings up, that it's literally the thing that's keeping me here. And so that's a great point.
The thing that's keeping me safe.
Keeping me safe, yeah.
Just knowing that everyone on campus has been willing to make these changes, it makes me really thankful that I chose to come to Purdue.
And so then she reinforces the whole thing that most of the kids are making these changes. They are doing what they're supposed to do, which is kind of the whole point of this, is to keep the students, because we're in the spring semester. You could start to feel that drag about, do we keep doing the Protect Purdue stuff? The vaccine's getting ready to come out, stuff like that. And so that was the point of this, is to keep doing the things you're supposed to do. And so she ends it with a big positive reinforcement, which I thought was great. And so this was my first cut. So the notes I got back were that the opening part after she says she's immunocompromised, and then we hang on her.
And I'm immunocompromised.
Is that it's a little too long. I can't
fight off illness anywhere near
that we're
as
hanging
well
on
as
her. I felt like we're just hanging on her too long. So that was one of the notes. And then the other note was that the timing, or the sequence of video shots from when she's going out of her apartment, and then we come back to her in the apartment with the Protect Purdue stuff, is they're wondering if we can change that so that we see the Protect Purdue stuff. So it all feels more like a sequence that she's doing in order. Like I said, I originally put that up there because she started talking about Protect Purdue. She's talking about her feelings when she's leaving her apartment, and then she starts talking about Protect Purdue. So I was using that sign as a kind of a way of visual. But after I got that note, I kind of agreed with her. I'm like, it does seem a little odd that she's out of her apartment and then suddenly she's back in her apartment. So this is the second cut.
My name is Berkley. I'm a junior studying neurobiology and physiology, and I'm immunocompromised. I can't fight off illness anywhere near as well as a healthy person. So even something as little as a cold or a stomach bug can make me really, really sick. So something like COVID is really scary. I get really nervous being in my big classes because if one person takes their mask off, I worry that maybe they're asymptomatic. I double mask when I'm anywhere near people because it makes me feel safer. I know that it's a challenge to follow the pledge, but it's genuinely the thing that's keeping me safe. Just knowing that everyone on campus has been willing to make these changes, it makes me really thankful that I chose to come to Purdue.
All right, so that's cut number 2, which not a ton of changes. And in fact, one of the big things, if I remember, is there really aren't any audio changes type of thing. Everything with the audio is still the same. I didn't have to go through and take out a bite or add a bite. It's really just visual stuff. So I did shorten the part after she's done.
And I'm immunocompromised.
I hang on to her for, it's only about maybe a second and a half, where before I looked at it, it was 5 seconds that I stuck with her. This time it's only about a second and a half. The other change I made, this is cut number 1, is after going to her
illness anywhere near as well as a healthy
I went to
person.
her
So even
wide shot with that,
as a cold or a
close up of there,
can
and then I did
really
that from the pills, and I actually moved those around. I figure the first shot was now going to be sort of introducing the pills from this angle. I thought that you definitely see their pills, and then you see that she's kind of out of focus in the back, and then we cut to seeing what she's doing.
So even something as little as a cold or a stomach bug can make
and
me
then
really,
close
really
to there,
sick.
and then
So
back to
something
her.
like COVID
I like that a
is
little
really
bit better.
Scary. I get really nervous being in my
And then this is where I set up the sequence of events in a more linear fashion. And I started with last time I ended on this shot of today is a good day, but I switched it around and I'm going to start on the shot of today is a good day, which I actually think works well with her talking about being nervous. Like, she has this sign up in her apartment.
I get really nervous being in my big class
as a way to sort of
because
reinforce
one person takes their mask off.
the idea that she can go out and do it, and then it's basically
that maybe they're asymptomatic.
becomes more of linear shots. She's walking down the stairs, she's going out. That's kind of a match cut outside, and then to her
But it's
to her
genuinely
walking.
the thing that's keeping me safe. Just knowing that everyone on campus has been willing to make these changes, it makes me.
Now, I will say I worked. This is one little thing as an editor, is I worked really hard to see if I could match this jump cut here.
Changes.
And I couldn't do it. The way her face looks and the way she starts her next sentence, I couldn't do a great match. You can tell it's an obvious jump cut. But she, if I remember correctly, I needed to tighten it up, so I have to make that. I wanted to make it really, really tight there. So not super happy with it, but it still works. I think it still works. You get the idea.
Changes.
Type of thing.
It makes me really thankful that I chose to come to Purdue.
Again, from going from my first edit to my second edit, not a lot of changes. I like this one because for 1 minute, I think it does a really good job of telling a story. We definitely have somebody who we feel immediately empathy for, and we learn about what she's scared about, why she's scared about it, and how it affects us, and how we can maybe even help affect her. So, like I said, this was one of my favorites from last year, and that's kind of wise because it really is I feel a good emotional story. She did a really good job of explaining talking about her feelings essentially, which I think is critical. That's it for this episode. Hopefully that is somewhat helpful. I'll try to get better. I'm not the best editor, and two, I'm not the best tutorial maker. This is my first time, so I'll give it a shot. I will get better as an editor. I will get better at maybe explaining things and why I make edits and what I'm thinking when I do that. And if you have questions, or if there's something that I didn't explain on here that you would like to know, let me know, and I'll be happy to try to figure it out. All right. Until the next Purdue Edit.